Hello Jeep fans, it's that day, it's that time, it's Greendot 319 and we're here to run this Jeep for the first time ever. It's what you've come to see. So then, what have we got then? Well, we've got the first run of this Jeep, and then we're also going to look at some things we've been working on, and then we're going to do some more running as well, just to see how this runs properly. Because the whole point of this is to make this Jeep run like it should out of the factory. So, subscribers, you know what's going on, but if you're new to this, let's look at what I've been doing with this Jeep and why it's important. So what are we looking at here then? Well, this is a World War II Willys Jeep, or most of a World War II Willys Jeep, okay? This is the Jeep you see in all the movies and things like that, okay? And they're an awesome little vehicle, they're really cool. They're not quite as strong as some of the films would have you make out, you know, jumping them 20 foot in the air and things like that. You can do it with it, but it won't last too many jumps. But they're a really great vehicle. You know, this vehicle pretty much won World War II. And the important part of it, well, one of the really important parts of it, is this little engine in here. This is the L134 Go Devil. Now, lots of you will know a lot about this, but it's a really straightforward, simple engine. It's a side valve, so it doesn't have an overhead cam or anything like that. The valves are just along there. 4 cylinders, 2.2 litres, about 60 horsepower. It's a grunty little engine. They produce a lot of power for what they do, and they're bulletproof, right? You can run these things till they run into the ground, but when you're setting them up, though, you have to do it correctly, because they're, especially with modern reproduction parts, it's all got to be quite correct to get it to run really sweetly and nicely, okay? So although it's a bulletproof engine and you can beat the hell out of these once you've set them up, to start off with, they've got to be set up correctly. And you know, that's what they did in World War II. These were a fighting vehicle. This vehicle was for fighting people with. You had to rely on it. It had to work properly, okay? So you can beat it up later on, but to start off with, they took a lot of pride in setting these up correctly, okay? And the factory worked really hard to get these to run properly. So what I thought I would do is I would set one up exactly as the manual says how to do it, set it up, spend all the money, do all the stuff to it, and see how it runs. Does it run great straight out the box? Does it tick and tap? Is that just how one of these things sounds or not? Is that what it's supposed to be like? Will it start straight away? So that's what I've done with this, or at least that's what I've tried to do with this anyway. And so then this motor is an interesting one, because this is a scratch-built motor. I've got all the bits from it separately to try and make a really good motor. So I got hold of a junk block pretty much, which hadn't run probably since the 60s, since it cracked down the side there. They've tried to repair it in the past and then have just given up on it. So just thought I'd buy one and see what happens with a junk block. Can you return it back to running spec, which is what we're going to find out. Everything else had to collect separately to create a 1943 motor. So it's got new old stock parts in it, new parts, used parts, but everything has been machined back to factory tolerance and spec. So everything should be exactly as it would be in the factory. Now, the bores are a little bit wider because they've been bored out, as you have to do when engines are worn. So the capacity of this engine will be just a fraction larger than it would have been from the factory, but that's usual with this sort of thing. But otherwise, it's totally in spec, and I've set it up totally to factory spec as well. I haven't rebuilt a carburetor. I got one from Joe's Motorpool. This is a reproduction, just put straight on there without adjusting it, just to see if you can take a Joe's Motorpool carburetor, bung it on a new Jeep and see if it will run properly. Ignition all set up back to factory spec in their starting position. So, you know, we're just going to see if you put power on it, put oil and fuel in it and water, and see if it runs or not. So to start off with then, let's just look at an important piece I got hold of the other day. Well, I was lucky enough to get hold of. Here's a little treat for us. What do you reckon I've been back in time to pick up here from the Electric Autolite Company, Toledo, Ohio? Well, let's have a look. This is something we needed. So let's have a look in here. Now, I've said it before, it's going to be a shame when we lose all the NOS stuff, because we won't get cool stuff like this. So got some desiccant on the top here. This bit of the box wants to attack me. Let's get some of this out then. It's lurking in there. It's coming out after 70 years. It's time to be used. Looking pretty good. Nice and clean. Oh yes. Aha. It's all becoming apparent. Slowly but surely. Yes, it is my generator for this Jeep. So we didn't have this recently, but now we do. So let's get this out of here. Oh, it's back in again. Let's get this out of here and see what we've got. They packed it in nicely. Very nicely, actually. They always pack this stuff up really good. Very nice indeed. Look, it's been in the box a little while. It's been smashing holes in the side of it. Here she is. Let's see if we can get her out one-handed. These things are bloody light and I'm not strong. Oh, yeah. There we go. Right. Looking very nice indeed, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it's been in there a little while. Sweet. This is a GG 5002D, which is correct for my Jeep. So they changed them a little bit throughout the war. They've got different ends to them and everything, but this is the correct one for my Jeep. So this is a NOS one, which we're going to bung in there. So let's see, give it a quick spin. So it needs to turn that way. Yeah, it seems to turn all right. Awesome. Right, let's bung that in. And here it is all fitted in there, hiding away. Looking awesome. Now, some of you may have noticed something strange about this, but I'll let you in on a secret. It's not NOS. I've rebuilt it, okay? That was a junk generator which I've rebuilt. It was in the box that I got the NOS generator in previously, but this is my rebuilt one, so that's my own work. So yeah, just a little bit of fun there. So then, let's go back in time. Let's go back before we put the air filter on there, before we put the generator on there, and before we had to use Bubba's pantyhose as a pulley because I didn't have one. So let's see if Greendot 319 is able to build an L134 engine and whether one will work straight out of the box, straight away, or not, or whether I've just wasted a huge amount of money. So let's have a look. Let's turn on the ignition. If I have to suddenly throw you down, it's because I've got to turn this off and I can't do it one-handed, okay? So put the ignition on, and then we're going to watch this oil pressure and hopefully see if it comes up. So, right, put you down for a sec. Give it a squirt. Right, here we go. Let's do this. It's the first start, hopefully, in 60 years. You ready? Oil pressure. We got oil pressure. Well, there you go. What do you reckon to that? Unbelievable, hey? An L134 engine built up to factory spec, set up to factory start position, kicks off straight away. It didn't even turn over once. Now, this starter motor is rubbish at the moment. For some reason, it's not behaving itself. Not sure what the problem is, but even with a really weak starter motor, it just leapt straight into life. So that's really good news then. So it looks like the factory knew what they were doing, and how they set it up meant that it would just light straight off. Also, the Joe's Motorpool carburetor in its factory position there started straight up. That was with no choke, and the throttle wasn't pulled out, mind. I just thought I would leave it with no choke and just at its factory setting and see what happens. So it's able to start straight away, which is pretty much unbelievable. Now, we've had a bit of time now to work on this. As you can see, it's looking a bit different. So I've done a little bit of tinkering with it, not a huge amount. Fitted some things like the air cleaner and the generator and everything like that. So now let's have a look at it. Now we've allowed it to settle in just a little bit, broken it in just a touch, and see how she's behaving now then. Right then, ignition is on. So just a touch choke, just a touch of throttle then. Out of gear. Let's go for it. Let's see how she's going. Okay, so she's heated up a bit now, sitting at idle. You can see it's got a good tick over. This is about 750 RPM at the moment, so a nice tick over. There's a little bit of noise down in the timing area. I think it's just the tight timing chain. It was very tight when I fitted it on, but then this pump, when I was testing it, made a bit of a noise as well. So it's either the diaphragm on the pump or the timing chain, but I reckon it's a timing chain. My coin's given up now. But as you can see, idles very nicely. Let's see what the pickup's like on the Joe's Motorpool carb. Yeah, there's absolutely no hesitation there or flat spot there at all. So the carb setup is very nice indeed. Nice and quiet and smooth, isn't it? Very nice. I'm finding it's not getting very warm either. It's got a 160 Fahrenheit thermostat in it. It's only getting up to about 140 at the moment. Yeah, that's nice and sweet, that is. You're supposed to idle at about 600 RPM, but it seems too low to me. This is 750, I think, 700. I tried it at 600, 500, and it just seems way too low. This seems happier, you know, getting some splash lubrication going on in there and everything, but yeah, she's sweet. And so Jeepers, there you have it, the World War II Jeep engine running for the first time. Set up as how I think they would have set it up as the factory. And it just goes to show, like I've said, they knew what they were doing in World War II. This was an important vehicle. Nothing could be left to chance. You had to rely on it. It had to get you out of tight situations. So I think it's a fitting tribute to try and build one like they did in World War II and try and, you know, do a bit of justice to the hard work and sacrifice that they put in, especially it being VE Day today. I must admit, even I didn't expect it to start on the first turn of the starter and go off idling straight away. It only died when I tried to give it a bit of throttle straight away. I mean, that's fair enough. But as you can see now, it's just starting to wear in and just starting to run nicely. And just about it then, yeah, it's a pretty quiet engine. This timing chain at the front makes a little bit of noise, more noise than the last one. I think it's just because it's tight, but perhaps the ones in World War II, they probably had a bit more loose than this. I think it's because it's a reproduction, but could be wrong. That could just be how they sound to start off with. But otherwise, it's very, very quiet indeed. You can just about hear the tappets and the valves ticking away, but only just. The noise from the PCV valve, you can't hear anything. You know, it runs very smoothly. It's very quiet. It's got a lot of power. There's no lag when you push the throttle or anything like that. It seems to behave how they're supposed to. So this part of the little World War II Jeep experiment is coming to a close then. Well, hopefully the engine is running, it's getting broken in, and it seems to be behaving. So what have we got to do? We've got to move on to the rest of this. Now, getting the thing to move, well, as you can see, it can move, but we'll look at that. There are some issues which you may have spotted or heard about already. So there are some issues with it, but we'll get this thing to move and then we're going to start buttoning up the front. I haven't sorted out all the tin work on the front yet. I've got the fenders, I've got a hood. The hood needs some work, the fenders need some work, and I do need a good grille. I've got one, but I'm not happy with it. For this Jeep, I want a really straight original one. I don't want to put a repro on there. The one I've got is really nice, but it's just a bit too... It'll just look a touch out of character. So if anybody happens to have a nice World War II grille for an ACM1, let me know, because it's going to hold me up a little bit trying to find one. I haven't spotted one yet on eBay. But there we go, Jeepers. That's it. That's it from us today. Stay tuned for the next instalment while we try to get this thing moving and rolling around and see how that goes. But until next time, enjoy Jeeping. Thanks a lot for checking in.